If you're tired of spending $60 on all of your games and you want to save some money on this fall's biggest releases like Fallout 4, Rainbow Six Siege, Battlefront, and Black Ops 3, check out CD Keys by using my affiliate link down in the description below. Hey, what's up guys? Joker here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the performance in Call of Duty Black Ops 3. As you know, with all of these new titles coming out, I like to do my performance reviews day one before we get to a full review later on, as it does take me a little bit more time to do those. But I want to take a look at the performance here day one, and just as we always like to do, we're going to go ahead and start off in the options menu. And if you're not keen to see the options menu, I'll be putting a timestamp on the screen right here if you want to skip ahead to where we talk about the actual performance of the game, where I did test on my 980 Ti's as well as a 970, tried to recreate some of the issues that Tech Power Up and other people are having on the forum. So if you want to see that, go ahead and skip ahead now to the timestamp you're seeing on your screen. So starting things off, let's go ahead and jump into our control options. We do have some options down here that we could tick on and off for things like frame smoothing or inverting the mouse if you want to, or having free look. You also have your mouse sensitivity slider, good slider we see here. You can also disable mouse acceleration and mouse filtering, and if you do want raw mouse input, then I definitely advise you to go ahead and slide those things all the way down to 0. And we've got all of our basic key bindings in here, which are fully remappable to any keys on the keyboard. You can remap the mouse squeal if you want, all of that stuff. Anything you want to customize it to on your keyboard or mouse, you're not going to have any issues with that. And you can also do multiple key bindings as well for specific actions. So if you want to have it bound to more than one key, then you can go ahead and definitely set that up. We also have an option here for the graphic content, not the graphics options, but graphic content like the blood and gore. You can turn on and off if you want to. It's in there if you do want to turn that off for some reason. Coming over into audio, we do have all of our separate sliders here for our master, voice, music, and sound effects volume. And we also do have some different audio presets, which is nice to see. We've got our Treyarch mix, bass boost, high boost, super crunch, and headphones. Would have been nice to see a surround option in there, because some of these things, Treyarch mix, I guess that's kind of like the intended way they want you to hear the game, but it really doesn't mean a lot to me, just like super crunch doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot to me. Like, I understand bass boost, I understand high boost headphones, but I would have liked to have seen things for 5.1, 2.1, something a little bit more relatable than Treyarch mix. I mentioned this back in the beta as well. It's not a major issue, but it's something I thought it was worth noting. You also have your multiplayer dialogue and music. If you want, you could turn that on and off. Really nice that you could turn off the music in the multiplayer. I understand not everyone wants to hear that, especially when you're trying to listen for things like footsteps. We also have our graphics options in here, the good stuff. So starting off, we do have full screen, windowed, or borderless full screen. If you want to do that, you can also swap between multiple monitors right in the menus, which is nice to do. Some games I have to go to the NVIDIA control panel, change my display if I want to hop over to my 4K screen. Thankfully in this game, not the case. I can just go ahead and change the monitor on the fly right there in the options menu. We do have support all the way up to 4K, as I've tested it on my 4K screen as well. I'm running at 1440 though at 144 Hertz, and we can also change our render resolution. So if you wanted to do half resolution or extra resolution, basically built-in DSR right here into the game, if you wanted to do that, you can go ahead and crank that up and get some maybe some better anti-aliasing sort of with a downsampling effect. Accidentally quit out there. Coming here, we do have our display gamma, which you could do HDTV or sRGB for computers, which I would advise you to put it on sRGB. Brightness, we have a brightness slider here. I keep it at 0, which seems to be just all right for me. And a really great FOV slider. Love to see this, guys. Goes from 65 all the way up to 120. Really great range right there. So no matter what you're comfortable with as far as FOVs are concerned, you should be able to find something comfortable for you. I like to use 90 in first-person shooters, but that's just me. Pick whatever you want to do. Now, max frames per second. This sucker goes all the way up to 240, but I actually have it limited to 90. And if you remember back in the beta, I had to do this as well, and it all basically comes down to input lag. So if you let your frames just fly, or if you just if you just let your frames go as high as they can over your monitor's refresh rate, you are going to experience some input lag on your mouse movement. At least I have, trying to aim accurately. If I were to set this to unlimited or even to my monitor's native refresh rate of 144 Hertz, I was experiencing a lot of issues. And I know people that have 60 Hertz monitors that said they basically had to lock down their frame rate to 60, otherwise they were getting that input lag as well. For me, testing on the 144 Hertz screen, I found that setting it to 90 is perfect. as far as being able to give me a smooth experience above 60 hertz while also not having that incurred input lag. I'm not really sure what the cause for this input lag is, but I will mention that it was in the beta and it's still here now in the main game. I would like to see this get addressed at some point, because they had even said right before the game got released that the input lag or the latency was actually better than Black Ops 2, and I would disagree with that completely, because it seems to be tied in some way to frame timings or the FPS of the game, which is just an odd one. So 144 hertz users, just be aware, if you want to avoid this input lag, you're going to have to drop that down to 90 frames per second right here in the game menu. It is nice that we do have that slider there, though. That's nice to see. We can sync every frame if we want to, and as well as put FPS on the screen. So nice options there. And we also have our advanced options in here, which I'm playing with everything cranked all the way up, apart from motion blur, which I don't like. But we have our texture quality, texture filtering, mesh quality, shadow map quality, dynamic shadows, subsurface scattering, order independent transparency, volumetric lighting, anti-aliasing, which if you're on SLI only goes to SMAA 1 times, but if you're on a single GPU, it goes all the way up to SMAA Filmic 2 times, TX2 or something. But for SLI, since I'm running on the 2980 Ti's, that's the highest it goes, is SMAA 1 times. Not sure of the justification for that, but I'm sure must have been some kind of issues with the higher ones over SLI for whatever reason. And then ambient occlusion here, just disabled or enabled, and it is SSAO, as specified here on the right pane of the screen, telling us what exactly it is. And then coming over to our game options in here, we can also set player name indicators if we want, as well as the split screen orientation of the game. But that does it for our options menu. Let's go ahead and switch over now and talk about how this game is actually running on the hardware that I have at hand. Alright, so let's talk about the performance of Call of Duty Black Ops 3. Now, a lot of you are probably already aware that there have been early reports on the community forums over on Steam, as well as from websites like Tech Power Up, who are reporting some early performance issues with the game and a potential memory leak. Now, I will say that I have not experienced this memory leak firsthand. I've tried to recreate the situation by limiting myself. I tested on my test rig with the GTX 970 that I have in there. Now, normally I have 16 gigabytes of RAM in there, which I tested it on, and it was fine. And I also even pulled out one of my sticks of DDR4 memory to try to run it on just 8 gigabytes to see if I would have any of the issues that Tech Power Up was reporting at 12 gigabytes of system memory. And I have to report that I did not have any issues running this game in the test system. Now, that test system has an i5 6600K, and I'll say that that i5 was definitely being pushed. I was seeing it up around 70, 80, even as high as 90% CPU usage on an i5. That was not an issue for me on an i7, but sticking with the test rig, the 970 was handling this game at the highest settings available in the game at 2560 by 1440, and you'll see in the gameplay on your screen right now, which is running on the 970, that I was not dipping below 60 frames. This is 1440p maxed out on the 970 with the i5 6600K, and this was not going below 60 frames. If I were to put it on 1080p and let the frames fly, I was getting up around 90 to 100 FPS at 1080p. So from my testing at least, the GTX 970 was more than enough to be able to handle this game on the highest settings at 1440p, even with just 8 gigabytes of system memory, which is, you know, it's this, basically my testing is not matching up with what I'm hearing out there from other people. Now, I can't explain this to you or, you know, validate what other people are saying, but I could just tell you from my testing, I did not experience any of these performance issues in any of my testing. Over on my main rig, obviously performance was even better. I will say that the video memory on the 980 Ti's was up around 5.5 gigabytes most of the time at 1440p, but even on the 970, which was maxing out the VRAM, it was running at 4 gig, which, you know, we know the 3.5 gigabyte issue or whatever with the 970, but even though that GPU was getting pushed to the full 4 gigabytes of video memory usage at 1440p, like I said, not dropping any frames. I had a really smooth experience at that resolution as well as 1080p with that graphics card. Now, as far as my SLI scaling is concerned, it's scaling really, really well. If I were to let the frames just, you know, completely go off the hinges and, you know, unlimited the frame rate, I was getting like 150 to 200 FPS. My graphics cards were scaling at about 95% usage plus on both GPUs, and handling 1440p without breaking a sweat. Now, I did mention that I had to limit my FPS to 90 in the options menu so that I could get rid of that mouse input lag. And running it at that, my GPUs really aren't going above about 50 to 60% usage on each card and just sitting locked on that 90 frames per second, so we can get rid of that input lag. So that's basically, you know, my report to you as far as how the game is running for me. Just once again, I've tried to recreate these issues that people are complaining about on the forums, Tech Power Up, and I just haven't had any of these issues, even going as far as to getting better performance on a GTX 970 than they were getting on a GTX 980 Ti. So it seems like I really don't have an answer as to why it's running better for me than it is for them. I can only report on what I'm seeing and try to give you the information that other people are seeing as well, so we can be as thorough as possible here in this performance review. But that's really all I've got for you guys. The game is running well enough for me. I'm having a good time with it, and, you know, loads of people are having these issues over on the Steam community forums, and it sucks that they're having these issues. I wish that I could recreate it so I could say, yeah, this is the issue right here. You know, you need more than 8 gigabytes of system memory, but unfortunately I haven't been able to have any massive impact in performance on me. Even on the 980 Ti's, you know, in SLI, I was able to run it on 4K. Single GPU was able to run 4K. Alright, I did have to lower down some settings to be able to keep the VRAM intact, but, you know, even a single 980 Ti, I was able to run this game at 4K with reasonable settings, so really just haven't had any issues with the game as far as performance is concerned. So, you know, it's really going to be your call, because there are a lot of people out there having issues, and I'm only one person. So, you know, if you're thinking about picking up Black Ops 3, if you're concerned about performance, you know, play it safe if you want. You know, it's really, you know, your choice at this point. You know, if you do buy it on Steam, obviously you have the option to get a Steam refund, which is always nice. But yeah, that's really all I've got for you guys, so I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. I'm going to be playing more Black Ops 3 over the weekend, and hopefully bringing you a review for the full game sometime next week. But I'll get out of here now, guys, and I will catch you next time. Ta-ra. And also, let me know down in the comments below if you've been running Black Ops 3, if you've run into any issues as far as to how the game is running for you. I'd love to get that feedback from you, especially if you've been playing the game, if you've had these same issues that other people are reporting. But once again, catch you guys next time.